Good evening students. Let us discuss about the work of wind. Like other external agents or the geomorphic agents like the river, glacier, wave actions, the wind is also an important exogenetic factors. Now they are also shaping our landform in various ways. Now this work of wind also known as aeolian action. Now this aeolian comes from a Greek word that means Aeolus, which means the Greek word which means the god of wind. Now let us discuss once again. The aeolian comes from a Greek word which means Aeolus, and the Aeolus meaning the god of wind. Now let us discuss the aeolian action. So the aeolian action is much more dominant in which areas? In the desert areas. So the wind action is much more dominant in the desert areas. Let's discuss about what is wind. Now the wind means when any air is moving horizontally, that means in this direction. Okay, so that means when the wind is moving or the air is moving horizontally from high pressure to low pressure. This is the most important part. So the wind will always move from high to low pressure zone. That means just like the river action, you know that the river will always move from high area to a low area. Similarly, the wind will always move from high pressure to low pressure zone or the low pressure area. This is the high pressure and this is the low pressure. Next we will discuss the wind are of various types. Okay, this aeolian action, that means the work of wind, you will see where? Mainly in the desert areas and also in coastal areas. Also we will see in the desert and the coastal. Next we will discuss the speed of wind. The speed of wind mainly depend on two factors. What are the two factors? First one, you have to remember the pressure difference. So pressure difference means what? I have explained that the wind always move or the air will always move from high to low pressure. From high to low pressure. This is the first part, and second one is the obstruction. Now the wind action will be stopped if the wind is moving like this in this direction, if there is any tall building or any kind of constructional work is doing over in this part, so the wind action will be stopped over here or it will be checked. Why? The obstruction in its path. So the speed of the wind is depend upon its two factors. One is the pressure difference, another one is the obstruction in its path. So if the wind is moving in this direction, there is one obstruction, so the wind can't move properly. So this is the second factor. Next we will discuss various types of deserts are formed. Now deserts are of three types, okay? So we can discuss. One is the stony desert, one is the rocky, another one is the sandy desert. Now first one is the stony desert, rocky desert and sandy desert. Now what do you mean by the rocky desert? That means that are known as hamada. Stony desert are known as erg. And the sandy deserts are known as reg. So they are called as different name. This is their local name. So if you see the rocky desert, we can call it as an hamada. If you see sandy desert, we can call it as an reg. And if you see the stony desert, we can call it as an erg. So these are the three types of desert. Next we will discuss why the wind action is much more prominent in the desert areas. So first will be the lack of vegetation. So the first one is a lack of vegetation, means where you will see very less amount of vegetation is present. Where it is present? In the desert areas. So if in the desert areas, if you see very lack of vegetation, the wind action is much more dominant. The next factor is the large range of diurnal temperature. What does it mean? That means during the daytime the temperatures are very hot and during night the temperatures are very cold. That means a great difference between the daytime and the night time. So if you see these factors once again, that means the wind will be dominant in those areas. So the first one is the lack of vegetation and second one is the large range of diurnal temperature. So these are the areas where you will see the wind action is much more dominant. Next we will discuss the works of wind, how the winds are working. Now the works of wind we can again subdivide it into three types. The work of wind are of three types. The first you will see erosion, next one is the transportation, and third one is the deposition. Now this erosional activity or the erosion action you will see in the youth stage, just like the river you will see the erosion activity. In the same way, in the wind action also, in the first stage, that means the youth stage, you will see the erosions. And deposition you will see in which stage? Old stage. That means, just like the rivers, you will see that the depositional activity, same ways also the wind perform in their old stage the depositional activities. Next we will discuss about these erosional factors. Now this erosion of wind are of three types. First one is the deflation, second one is the abrasion, and third one is attrition. So let us discuss once again deflation, abrasion and attrition. Now first I will discuss the deflation. So what do you mean by deflation? For this I have to rub this part. Now the deflation comes from a Latin word that means to blown away. Now this is one kind of landforms where so many small rocks are present. Okay. So when you will see that the wind is moving in this direction, they will blow some of these very small particles. So if they are blown away or removing from these areas, so the landform will be like this. So that means from these areas, okay, from these areas the wind will shift these particles to another area. That means they are blown away to this part. So this part is known as, or this process is known as deflation. First one. Next I will discuss the abrasion. What does the word abrasion means? The abrasion means when the wind will move in this direction and giving the arrow in the same direction, so that means the wind is carrying some sand along with themselves. When this sand will collide with the large rock particles or large rock boulders, okay, when the wind will move in this direction, they carry some sand particles. These are some sand particles. This is the direction of wind. And this is a large boulders, okay. Now what will they do? Now the wind is moving in this way, they are carrying some sand particles and they will collide with the large rock boulders. Then this part will be polished and they are becoming much more gentler. And their size will be reduced. Why their size will be reduced? Because of the process of abrasion. This is one erosional process where the rock particles or the rock boulders, their shape will be deformed or be polished because of the action of abrasion. Why their size is polished? This size is polished because of the sand particles get collide with this part. So that's why this part is getting much more polished and they are becoming much more gentle compared to the uneven one. So this is the process of abrasion. Next, you will see the abrasion in the lower part of any kind of landforms that is formed. For example, you will see that the abrasion action is much more dominant in Sahara Desert. Okay. Next, we will discuss the attrition. So what do you mean by attrition? This is another process where the small particles, when they collide against each other, when they collide means they are getting touched or কি হচ্ছে ভেঙে যাচ্ছে. So when they are getting collide with each other, they are forming very small particles. That small particles are formed in this process. That means the attrition one. Okay, so this is the erosional process: deflation, abrasion, and attrition. Next, I will discuss the transportation factor. So today up to this, the next class will start with this transportation. Thank you, students.